Good evening. I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for being with us. Major cuts to transit are proposed in this year's budget. It's raising alarms and inspiring some to push back. CBC's Dawson Chen reports.
With $1.4 million in cuts proposed for Transit Windsor in this year's city budget, the union that represents Transit Windsor drivers and workers is saying that it has concerns about how the service is being handled. Manny Sforza is the international vice president of the Amalgamated Transit Union. He says that maintenance issues led to 36 bus cancellations over 3 days at the start of this week. And Sforza says if cuts happen, riders can expect more of the same.
Our maintenance staff cannot fix the buses quick enough to meet the demands of the daily fleet numbers. So in essence, Transit Windsor cannot get enough buses on the road to service the daily ridership. Well, there's going to be future cancellations just based on the way they're operating, but we haven't seen what these cuts look like. Nobody's reached out to us to even inform us.
The union raised these maintenance issues last month. At the time, the city refuted those claims and assured riders they would not be stranded in the cold. But Sforza says that's exactly what's happening now.
It's outrageous. Public transit is not there to turn a profit. It's there to get people to school, to work, and to medical appointments. And I think the mayor needs to be reminded of this.
The cuts to Transit Windsor are still to be discussed behind closed doors. And there's concern in the community the tunnel bus could be discontinued. Stephanie Thompson, a tunnel bus user, has started a change.org petition urging that the tunnel bus be considered an essential route.
My father's American. So all my life, I've been crossing that border. The first time I crossed on my own was in 1986. I've been using that service ever since. I still use it now. I have family that goes back and forth. I have friends. I've met great people on the tunnel bus in the 40 years I've been riding.
The City of Windsor said it is taking steps to introduce new buses into its active transit fleet with high safety standards. A city spokesperson described the union's accusations as false. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
We have an update now on a story we told you about last month. CBSA is sharing more information about what happened when a Windsor man was detained at the border, later dying outside Windsor Police headquarters. As Jason Vio reports, Colin Gray's family is still fighting for answers.
The Canada Border Services Agency says all of its internal protocols and policies were followed here at the Ambassador Bridge during officers' interaction with 63-year-old Colin Gray on November 29th. He died shortly after being released from Windsor police custody later that day. The Windsor man spent roughly 6 hours detained between both law enforcement agencies. Since this happened, his family and the Black community have been searching for answers. The family has also now hired a lawyer, and that family's lawyer, Joel Dick, says he's trying to determine a timeline on how much time Gray spent at Windsor Police versus the CBSA, but he says quite clearly someone's policies failed that day. Here's what happened. On the morning of November 29th, Colin Gray and his son Christian were driving back into Canada on the Ambassador Bridge. They had just dropped off Rose, Colin's wife and Christian's mom, at the airport in Detroit. Christian says his dad was driving slowly and cautiously and seemed a bit fatigued. When he got out of the vehicle during a secondary inspection, he was unsteady on his feet. He says CBSA officers thought Colin was drunk, but his family says those were symptoms of his type 2 diabetes and diabetic neuropathy in his feet. Colin was asked to take a breathalyzer test. His son Christian said his dad was too weak to blow hard enough to complete the test, and officers deemed that to be a refusal. Gray was eventually transferred into Windsor police custody. Christian says he told both CBSA and Windsor police officers about his dad's medical condition. Neither agency would confirm if that was known to them for privacy reasons. The CBSA says the proper policies were followed in Gray's case, including asking about any medical conditions and asking when their last meal was and providing one if needed, checking every 15 minutes on the detained individual, and when someone is detained for impaired driving, making the superintendent on duty aware. The CBSA also says if there's a medical concern, emergency services would be called even if the person didn't ask or they refused. Moments after Gray was released here from Windsor Police Headquarters, he did collapse and later die. Windsor Police won't say if he was offered medical attention or food or drink while he was in custody. Again, the family has hired a lawyer to help get them some answers here, seek some accountability, and prevent this from happening again to someone else in the future. And the coroner's office also says this death doesn't meet the criteria for an automatic inquest, but the family's lawyer hopes that one is still ordered, and the family is still waiting for a cause of death. Jason Vio, CBC News, Windsor.
Colette Kennedy is with us now for a quick look at weather. Colette, the cold, still cold, but beautiful sunshine today.
Yeah, so nice to have that hour after hour, right? Beautiful conditions in that sense, having to deal with that cold, but that's going to flip on us a little bit as we go towards the weekend. And the other thing that's happening, I mean, we're all connected by the weather, certainly. The same area of low pressure that was pushing those Santa Ana winds, making them extra strong into Southern California, that low combining with some energy that is to the west of us is going to tag through this region as we get into the second half of the day tomorrow and bring some snowfall to us. So we'll be impacted in a very different way by it. Overnight tonight is similar to last night, -12 the low, feeling like almost -20. And then with that light snow coming through, -3 the high for tomorrow. I will tell you how much snow to expect when I return.
All righty. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Up next, the province is launching a new initiative. It's called Operation Deterrence, and it's meant to deter illegal border activities. Pratush Thayal has more on what it means for Windsor.
Operation Deterrence is Ontario's plan to crack down on the flow of migrants and illegal guns and drugs. The Ontario Provincial Police has assigned a 200-officer emergency response team to border security, which has now been deployed. The OPP says it has already helped them intercept human smugglers as recently as this week, where 4 people were arrested in Cornwall near Ottawa. But what does this all mean for Windsor?
Can't tell you how many are being assigned at various locations. That's operational information that would compromise operations, so that's not something that we speak about.
OPP Commissioner will neither say how many of the 200 officers will be stationed to Windsor, nor share numbers of individuals or weapons or the quantity of drugs intercepted by the program so far, but says the main objective is deterrence.
But those 200 officers are real. They come from investments that have happened over the last 3 years.
Operation Deterrence is a huge support in the province of Ontario to the RCMP.
RCMP's Dale Foote says their 250 dedicated uniform officers patrol the border in Ontario regularly, and the additional police support is welcomed in Windsor area.
We have over 30 police officers uniformed working in the Windsor area. In addition to that, we also have RCMP units that work outside of that uniform presence, national security teams and other intelligence people in and out of the Windsor offices on a regular basis.
Foote says in the past couple of years, there has been an increase in the patrols as a long stretch of border requires more surveillance. But the narrow area of the St. Clair River is where the majority of their activity has been focused.
We have noticed an increase in calls for service from the public, suspicious activity on the waterways. We've noticed an uptick in those types of calls.
The Office of the Solicitor General will also not share details around illegal border crossings, related charges, or the number of illegal weapons seized so far, citing operational sensitivities, but says the increased patrols in the air, land, and waterways under this operation will help deter illegal activities. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Windsor.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau gave an interview to CNN today. He had advice for his successor when it comes to dealing with incoming President Donald Trump.
Understand that the win-win is what we need. Making sure that everyone understands that we do better when we work together, that yes, the American president has a capacity to hurt the Canadian economy. There's no question about that. But anything an American president does to hurt the Canadian economy will also hurt American consumers, American workers, and American growth.
In other news, for the most part, newcomers say that they are having a positive experience in Canada, but they also report facing unique challenges when it comes to housing. Alexander Silberman looks at this as part of Welcome to Canada, a CBC News series about immigration told by newcomers themselves.
Wow, they have visitor parking.
Vineet and Diksha Jain arrived in Saskatoon from India last year with high hopes for a better life and began searching for a home.
This looks like really spacious.
Yeah, it's spacious
For now,
plus compact.
They saw rising rents, but being new to Canada was the biggest obstacle. With no credit history, references, or jobs, landlords kept saying no.
I was feeling like we should give up and maybe we should go back to our home country.
The long hunt for stable housing held up their path to getting settled in Canada and focusing on finding work in their fields. After 6 months of renting a room, they eventually found a place of their own.
There was always a tension back of our mind that we need to get into some good and bigger accommodation so that we can prioritize and plan our future.
The Jains are among many newcomers to Canada reporting challenges finding housing. In a survey conducted for CBC News, 8 in 10 newcomers say they've had a positive experience settling in Canada, but just more than half say they found a home that is affordable. The cost of rentals continues to grow across Canada, with most units still too expensive for the average renter. The country is rapidly building new apartments like these ones, and that's helping affordability with a record number of new rentals this year. But housing policy experts say construction is still lagging behind demand.
Supply just can't respond quickly enough.
This researcher says an influx of international students and temporary foreign workers created a rapid surge in demand for rentals.
People can get on a plane anywhere in the world this morning and arrive tonight. But we can't get a house on a production line this morning and have it ready for tonight. It takes us 5 or 6 years to get a housing built.
Others say it's a matter of too little housing and argue Canada can't afford to scale back immigration.
But simply saying that we're going to slow the population and therefore solve all of our problems, I think is actually very short-sighted and distracts us from the work that we need to do.
Welcome to our new home, Diksha.
The Jains are glad to finally have a place of their own, but they worry for other newcomers arriving in Canada and say some landlords and scammers are taking advantage of their situations. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
For anyone, running a full marathon is a major accomplishment. Now imagine doing it over and over again all around the world. Meet the amazing international marathon man who hails from Windsor but chases the races to the edges of the globe.
I'm Jasdeep Singh. I run marathons. I've run marathons all across the world on all 7 continents. And this last winter, I just completed my 7th continent by running a marathon in Antarctica. Antarctica was just unbelievable, just amazing. Like, it's a desert. Living in Canada, we are used to snow, but the snow here is packed with moisture. But out there, the snow was sand. You know, with no ozone layer, the sun being out, we were being cooked by the UV radiation, so putting on a lot of sunscreen. But it was an amazing experience. Plus, having people from all around the world come in to run this marathon just made this even more unique because everybody knew that we were into this together. There are like 400, close to 495 people who've done the seven continents.
Out of 8 billion people.
Yeah. When I started running, I did this to just get into shape because I couldn't even do a 5K when I did my first run with my brother-in-law. At that time, I didn't even think that I'll be running 7 continents. I started running at Riverside first, and every time I would pass runners, they would just wave at you. And I'm like, this is amazing. So I slowly did 5K, 10K, and then I did the Detroit Marathon, which was a very unique experience. To date, it's still one of my favorite marathons. It just became a dream because I'm like, you know what? If I can do 2, I can do more. So every year we would plan a budget. Like this year, I want to go to this country, do this marathon. And Terry Fox Foundation has been very supportive all along this. So every marathon built on it.
Jeffy!
And with Antarctica, the dream just came true.
That is so inspiring, makes me want to get my running shoes back on and get running again. And he's just one of 8 Canadians who have run marathons on all 7 continents. Amazing. And if you want to run the race in Antarctica, it'll cost you $22,500 US, but you still can do it. See you in a sec. Welcome back. You probably don't weigh the meat that you buy, but you might start doing so after this story. A CBC News investigation has found some customers are getting overcharged due to misweighed meat. Sophia Harris checked it out.
When Iris Griffin weighed the ground beef she bought in order to freeze individual portions, she says it was short, 134 grams.
I was angry. I was short by what was equivalent to an entire portion.
Griffin bought the beef at a Loblaw-owned superstore in Winnipeg. She figures the store overcharged her $1.27, an extra 8%, by including the plastic packaging when weighing and pricing the meat.
I'm being charged for this piece of plastic at the price of the ground beef.
Under federal rules, posted net weights on food labels can't include the packaging.
It is a violation of a mandatory federal regulation.
Griffin complained to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, which alerted Loblaw. The grocer says, due to an error involved in a change in packaging, it sold a small number of underweighted meat products in 80 stores across Western Canada. The CFIA says it issued no fines because Loblaw fixed the problem. Okay, and weighing the meat. 1 year later, CBC News went shopping and found several packages of underweighted meat at 2 Loblaw stores and 1 Sobeys owned location, plus this Walmart. It appeared the meats had been weighed with the packaging. Calculated overcharges per item were between 4 and 11%.
Doesn't surprise me at all that it's still a problem.
Retired CFIA inspector Terry Lee says when on the job, she often found underweighted meat in stores. She says both the CFIA and grocers need to do more to protect shoppers.
It's a hidden cost to consumers. The stores, they need to do more auditing. They need to get in there and they need to check their weights more often.
In an email, Loblaw apologized for its misweighed meat and said it has reviewed all weighted products for accuracy and refreshed in-store training. Sobeys and Walmart said they're addressing the issues CBC found with third-party partners which weighed the meat. This consumer advocate says even a small weight discrepancy can, over time, add up to big profits for grocers.
Potentially into millions and millions of dollars. So there's definitely a need here for some kind of rectification that consumers get compensated.
When asked, Loblaw said it will offer compensation. Sobeys and Walmart didn't respond. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Vancouver.
Turning now to those wildfires burning outside of Los Angeles. The intensity of the winds diminished slightly, giving fire crews a chance to go on the attack. One did stop spreading today, but conditions remained windy and dry, and city leaders described the disaster as historic.
The scale of the impact today is larger than anything that I have seen in my career.
Destroyed homes number in the thousands. The total area burned has passed 11,000 hectares. 180,000 people have been ordered to evacuate. The number of deaths stood at 5 this morning, a number expected to rise. The crews did beat back a new fire overnight in the hills above Hollywood Boulevard, and winds receded slightly, allowing air teams to resume work. But after months without rain, the land is parched, and weather alerts remain in effect until at least tomorrow evening. Washington's National Cathedral hosted the state funeral today for Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States. All 5 living presidents looked on as Carter's grandson spoke of his grandfather.
His spirit will live on in many ways for us. He'll be in the kitchen making pancakes, or in his wood shop, finishing a cradle for a great-grandchild. Standing in a trout stream with Mom Carter. Or for me, just walking those Georgia fields and forests where he's from.
Imagine U.S. President Biden spoke of how he supported Carter in his presidential bid. Barack Obama chatted with seatmate Donald Trump, while the Carter family sat on the other side of the aisle. Prime Minister Trudeau attended as well, and Carter's final resting place will be near his home in Plains, Georgia. When we come back, we'll have Colette back with us again for a look at weather in the coming days. Stay with us. Welcome back, Colette. We're going to talk about local weather in just a sec, but I know that once again you've been keeping a close watch on California, and folks here care what's going on there. So give us an update.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So a couple of things changing. One that, helps a little bit, and the other that they'll be watching very carefully. So still just a huge area in that red flag warning or the fire weather warning, and still high wind warnings, even though they've come down and eased a little bit through today. So that has been somewhat helpful in getting the planes up in terms of ways to fight these fires. But if we look at the forecast wind gusts and we go through time here and pushing into, this is just after midnight tonight, you'll see pockets where there's going to be a real burst of those winds picking up again, gusting over 50 kilometers an hour. And then if you watch these red arrows, this is the other component where I think this is could be tricky. More of a flow that's going to come out of the southwest, which could push the fires more to the east. So that means the Pacific Palisades may start edging closer to Santa Monica. So really, really tricky situation there, quite obviously. Back here at home, we're all connected, I was saying earlier in the show, because the same area of low pressure that's really pushing those winds and making the Santa Anas a little more enhanced through Southern California is going to eventually be bringing some energy to us through tomorrow and pushing some snow in our direction, along with another system from the west. So temperatures, we know we've got the cold air in place for the snowfall and current wind chills feeling like minus 13. So it was certainly nice to have that sun all day today. Clearer skies through the overnight, and then we'll begin to get into some increasing cloudiness, but really it's through the day tomorrow. We'll get into more of that cloud cover, so we push towards the lunch hour, and then into the afternoon, some of this light snow developing, and we are going to see some accumulations. It's certainly cold enough here. That'll change a little bit towards the weekend, and with that, we'll probably get improvements overnight Friday into Saturday morning, but still a few flurries possible. In terms of those amounts, I said I would share it with you, 4 to about 5 centimeters or so we can expect here into southwestern Ontario. So again, if you're trying to get away for the weekend or anything and get a jump start tomorrow afternoon, it will already essentially have begun, certainly as we get into the mid or later afternoon hours. Overnight temperatures, another cool one for tonight. It was minus 12 last night, and tomorrow minus 2. Daytime highs, they are coming up a little bit. We'll be lucky to see any sun late Saturday, but I put it in there just in case. Sunday as well, perhaps some sunny breaks, and then a few flurries before the next round of cold air comes in by next Tuesday.
Thank you so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
Thanks to you all for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Good night.
Good night.